So welcome to today's webinar with ATG. I appreciate you tuning in today to learn about Bluebeam Revu. I hope everybody's doing well, keeping busy, staying healthy. Today, we're focusing solely on civil engineering workflows inside of Bluebeam. Bluebeam Revu is widely used across the globe, but it's normally associated with architectural-based design, including electrical and construction trades. I do a lot of Bluebeam training, and that the confusion always comes up like, well, how can I use this for civil? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be using it for civil projects like site design, preliminary layouts. We'll do some stuff with subdivisions. The concepts that we're going to explore certainly can work for other disciplines, right? That's the beauty of Bluebeam. It works for everybody. From administration through construction as-built, this tool can help you by replacing your daily workflows that you might be doing in Adobe or Foxit, or even AutoCAD for that matter. And it's going to go ahead and streamline your daily workflows. So that's what we're looking to do. My name is Jason Artley. I am a senior technical specialist here at ATG. We are a Bluebeam Platinum partner, and I'm a Bluebeam certified support representative. In addition to Bluebeam, we are also a Platinum partner with Autodesk. Our goal is to be your one-stop shop for software licensing, training, support. We've even got hardware solutions too. So we love doing these webinars and creating content for our customers to help you become more efficient and proficient in the software that you use every day. In this Zoom interface, there is a chat or a Q&A window that's going to be up there. Feel free to type in any questions as we go. I'll be checking that periodically and make sure that everybody's questions are answered. So today's agenda, we're going to go quickly over the purpose of Bluebeam Revu. We're going to explore some of the common workflows. We're going to understand the basic functionality. And I'm probably going to deviate from that a little bit, and we're going to get into customization instead. And then we're going to learn some of these civil-based workflows to do efficient digital work. So since we're talking about Bluebeam, I love the software. I've been using it for several years now, and it's so easy to use and it's highly customizable. We're going to be going through and configuring some of these things and doing some of this customization that it's shockingly much easier than you would think. So with that, before we get started, let's talk about the company that's behind it. Bluebeam empowers people to advance the way our world is built. Bluebeam Revu is the flagship solution that they offer, and it's meant to help teams simplify complex processes and collaborate in real time to finish projects on schedule and under budget. So they've been around for 18 years now. They've got 1.7 million users across the globe. This might even be old. I'm guessing it's going up. It's got to be close to 2 million by now because this software is really taking off. So that's about it. Bluebeam empowers their people to advance the way our world is built. And that's one of the confusing things. Bluebeam Revu is the software. Bluebeam is the company. So I'm guilty of it. I always say, I'm going to use Bluebeam. But the truth is we're saying, we're referring to Revu. That's the software. So with Bluebeam Revu, there are 4 versions of it. There's an iPad version, which works great for, in the field, punch lists, things like that, or home use. There is a standard version, there's a CAD version, and there's Extreme. Almost everything that we're going to be doing today is going to work on the standard and above versions. So, it's the host of features that you get in the standard version is going to be plenty for most civil work. So with that, we're going to jump right into the software, and we'll go from there. All right, let me configure my screen real quick, and we'll hop right into Bluebeam. All right, so should be able to see my screen now, and we're just going to do a quick rundown through the interface. I'll be going through this Bluebeam data set today and another file that I've got already opened up here, but this is what most people see when they open up Bluebeam Revu. end up seeing a fairly bare interface. So we've got some menu bars at the top, and we've got some toolbars over on the right side here. On the bottom, we have our status bar, and then on the left, we have our flyout panels. So if you've been using Bluebeam for a while, see Bluebeam Revu, see I already did it, you might notice things are a little bit different. If you've been using 2017 or earlier, the interface was quite a bit different. There was these half circles that would fly out. And with the latest Bluebeam Revu, they had changed the interface to make the panels a little bit more accessible and more usable. So we've got our file access and our tool chest, and we'll be going through some of those more useful ones here shortly. Now, this is where people get lost on Revu, is they open it up and like, well, if it's so powerful, why is it so plain? Like, I've got some stuff here, but it's not that easy to use, especially if you're coming from an older version. And this relies on profiles. There are different profiles within inside of Revu. You get 4 out of the box. There's a Revu standard or just Revu plain. There is a Revu advanced, quantity takeoff, and field issues. So in this current display, I have Revu standard open, and we can see that's set up by the check mark there. So if you're playing along at home, feel free to go to the upper left side of, or upper left corner of your Bluebeam Revu, click on the Revu file menu pull down and scroll down to profiles, and you'll see some different options. Revu Advanced is the one I used most of the time, right? This is, if we switch to Revu Advanced, this is going to give us it's going to split our panels. So some are going to be on the left, some are going to be on the right. Our toolbars are going to appear at the top, and we still have our constant menu bar and our constant status bar down at the bottom. So this can be highly customized, right? By right-clicking on any of the toolbars, I can go in here and choose what different options I want. If I want to see different toolbars, I can set all this stuff up here. I can move things around, all that can be done. But today we're talking about civil. And maybe I'm not always doing civil stuff. Maybe I'm just doing, forms, or I'm doing other sorts of redlines or markups inside of Revu. But today we're talking about civil, so I made a profile especially for civil work. So let me show you how this is going to look. If I come down to the bottom of profiles and go to manage profile, I can see which one I have active, and I have my different options. So for the civil option, all I did is I went to add and I created a new profile. When you create this profile, this can be saved to a network location that can then be imported. Or if you've already set it up, you can export it. This way, if you have things that maybe you want to standardize across your department or your company, you can share these profiles with others, right? So whenever I switch to my civil profile, I'm going to have different settings. I'm going to have different things in my tool chest, things like that. So just because we're saying civil here, of course, this can be set up for anything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Let's go switch to that profile. I could have switched to this in that last dialog box, but this is the most common way to switch between profiles. So let's jump over to my civil profile. So we didn't see a whole lot of changes. I didn't mess with my toolbar too much. But where we're really going to see a difference is in the tool chest. Now, the tool chest is another highly customizable thing, a part of Bluebeam. And here, I'm going to do the same thing. If I come down and manage tool sets, here we can see all the different tool sets that I have. So I did the same thing. I created some for civil design, and these all get saved to BTX files. So if I go in here and create one for our webinar, this is where we have an option to show in all profiles, or it's just going to stay in this particular profile. So I know that I have civil set. This is only going to appear in my civil toolset. So when I hit OK, it should prompt me for where I want to save this file. And by default, it's going to show up in your app data for Bluebeam software. I am using Revu 19. And all of these files get saved into a BTX file. So everything in that tool chest relies on that one simple file. This is the same file that you would export or import, same thing. If you want to share this with your coworkers or your team, all you got to do is send them this simple file. So I'm going to hit save just to get this to show up. I don't know if I'm going to do much with it right now, but there we see over on the left side in my tool chest, I have a webinar option here. So we're talking about civil design, and we're talking about Bluebeam Revu. So let's talk about how this is being used currently. And I say currently, meaning two different things. Currently, Bluebeam is used across the world for so many different uses. I see a lot of folks using it for just markups and collaboration. I see admin people using it for forms and digital signatures. I do a lot of that. It works really well for that type of work as well. But we've also got a little bit of a pandemic going on. So we're seeing a lot more folks working from home. And when you're working from home, you don't have access to the plotters that you had before. You don't have access to the scanners that you probably had before. So how do you collaborate and how do you work with people on your team, because work still has to get done? So we're seeing more paperless workflows. So how do I print something out, draw the lines I need to draw, make the markups, take the measurements? How do I do that without my printer and my scanner? And that's what Revu works really well for. We can calibrate Bluebeam Revu to know the scale of the drawing. Therefore, when we take measurements, they're going to be accurate. We can use this to make redline comments. Maybe I'm an engineer and I'm sending them to my drafter to make changes, or vice versa. We can do those things. So another way that this can be used is for preliminary design. And sometimes there's some users. I won't say a particular user type, but let's just say that there's some people in the civil industry who probably shouldn't be touching CAD, right? Civil 3D is very complex. InfraWorks is complex. Whatever you're using for preliminary design, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, and they just want to draw in some manholes and some lines and call it good. Well, this is where Bluebeam Revu can come help too. This software is about 10% of the cost of Civil 3D. I mean, even if that, I'm not going to do the math entirely, but it's really affordable. And it has a whole host of features that can be used for preliminary design. So what do I mean by this? It's so simple. This interface right now is set to my civil profile, and I have some civil things in my tool chest. So let's take this simple project, and I'm just going to lay stuff out. It's not going to be totally accurate. Let's pretend this isn't an existing building. Actually, let's go in and edit that text entirely. This is no longer our existing building. Let's just change this PDF to say proposed building. There we go. So there's our proposed building. Let's see how I made that change so quickly. Now let's draw our building connections, right? We're going to have water, we're going to have sewer, we're going to have some storm drain, roof drain connections to this building. Let's just start putting those in. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of these things in my tool chest that I've pre-configured, and then we're going to go backwards and I'm going to show you how I did it. So let's say our water connection is over here, right? I'm going to go ahead and snap to my building. We'll come down here. It's going to run through that side. I'll grab another water line. We'll connect there. It's going to end up on the other sheet, oh so conveniently. And if I scroll in, I can see I have some W's in my water line. We're probably going to need a water valve in here, so I'll just go ahead and drop that in. These symbols are a little cartoonish just because I was going quick. Not everybody uses that for a water valve, but that'll work. Let's go ahead and do our sanitary sewer connection. That's going to be over here. I can grab my sewer line. Let's see. And I kind of have that object tracking, or that OSNAP tracking like we have in AutoCAD, which works pretty slick. go ahead and grab my sewer again, if I can find it. Storm, water, sewer. So I can make these connections. I'll have that go over there. Let's drop in another manhole somewhere along here. So I've got these options. Let's put our storm on this side. I'll go ahead and put a storm manhole here. Again, I'm just putting objects in here. Don't judge my engineering skills because I'm not an engineer. So let's put some storm lines in here. We'll connect off of our roof drains. And you can see I've got my lines pre-configured. Don't worry, we're going to go through and show you how all of this works. So I can connect that, and let's just go ahead and make this one go off to the page 2. So I can do simple preliminary design just with a couple buttons on this toolbar, right? If I really wanted to make this simple, I could get rid of everything else on this tool chest. Maybe there's, we've got somebody who just wants to do preliminary design. I can quite literally give them a toolbox with just a few tools. They wouldn't need to touch anything else, right? So we can make some of those simple changes to really make this interface easy and accessible for anybody. All right. So I've done some layout here. That's all fine and dandy. What else can I do? And why, how did I get here? How did all these things end up in here? Well, one of the cool things about Revu is that there are a whole host of tools for markups and measurements. And with those markup tools are some shapes that we can draw. So what I did to create this storm sewer symbol, I'll go ahead and drop this in here accordingly, is all I did was I created an ellipse shape, so that circular shape, using this option from the toolbar. And I put a piece of text in there, and then I snapshotted that. So if you actually had symbols that you wanted to use, let's say you've got a company legend that's on a PDF, you can absolutely take that legend and use it to populate some tools in here. So let's go make a different type of manhole. Let's make a telephone manhole or a communications one. And this same workflow is going to work accordingly. I'm just going to draw a circle. I'll make it somewhat close to the other side. Again, this is just preliminary design. If I just wanted to hand this off, we could do this. So I made this circle. I'm going to come over to the right side of this particular profile to access my properties. I'll make this a little bit larger so it's easy to see. So in my ellipse properties, I have an author and I have a subject. For my subject, I'm going to call this telecom. I'll show you why this matters in a little bit. Let's continue populating this or configuring this manhole. So our color for this is going to be orange, right? Isn't that our standard color? I'm going to go ahead and take my line width and drop that down a little bit. Okay, so I made that ellipse. Let's put a piece of text in there. So I'll go up to my markup. I'll go to text box. Actually, just do typewriter. I just need a simple thing. We'll just make a T in here. And I'll take this T and I will configure that as well. I want that to be font size. That can be dropped down to a 6. We can make that color orange as well. And I can move that to fit my circle. Now, this is one of the things I was hoping was going to happen. I can't get that T directly to the center of the circle. I've got some constraints set up in here that are just kind of snapping me to some objects. If I hold down the control key, it bypasses all of those. So then I can get it pretty darn close to center there. And I'm ready to go. All right. So with this symbol in here, and again, think of this. If you already have a PDF file that has all of your company symbols, this same process from here on out is going to be the same. So with this T, this is my telephone manhole, all I got to do is come up to the Snapshot tool. So this is accessible from going from the Edit pull-down menu to choose Snapshot. I could also type in G for my hotkey, which I'm going to do. Type in G, and I'm just going to take a snapshot of this spot here. And what this does is this allows me to copy paste So if I keep pasting, it's going to drop in this whole thing. And notice it's all one unit. Now, what I can do with this is use my recent tools. So your recent tools, whenever you use review, no matter what command you're going to do, it's going to show up in your recent tools automatically. When you close review, this recent tools is going to get cleared out. So if there's something in here that you want to keep, be sure to keep it by putting it inside of another tool chest. So for example, I want this telephone manhole to appear in my civil design. All I have to do is grab this thing and pull it down and drag it into my tool chest here. All right, so now next time I close Bluebeam, doesn't matter what file I'm working on, this is always going to be here for me. So if I want to take that manhole, I can just drop that in. If I want to put in a storm manhole, it's the same exact process. We're going to take that snapshot of that object and then just drag it into a new tool chest. So it works pretty slick. All this is doing is it's updating that BTX file that we've got running on in the background, right? So we can make these comments, and then once this is in here, of course, I can go in here and select all these and just delete them. I don't need them anymore. Uh-oh, I think I made Bluebeam mad. So what I wanted to show you, but it wouldn't let me move to my shared screen here, is that when I crashed, right? So Bluebeam had a little crash. When I crashed, when I reopened it, Bluebeam asked me, hey, do you want to recover your lost changes? And I said yes. And look, everything that we had just did is still here. So I didn't lose anything. I didn't hit save the entire time. It did kick me out of my profile, which is okay. If I jump back to my new profile, I did lose all of my recent tools, and I did lose that that T symbol. But you know, it is what it is. I still have this, so I can easily repeat that process. We'll go grab this guy. So I can paste him, and I'll drop that in here accordingly. So I'm not going to try deleting those. For some reason, that's what caused that issue. So there was a question, is there a size difference between using a snapshot or a group? Groups are, you know, similar to AutoCAD. I can group these objects together. There is a little bit of a size difference. Obviously, these are customizable. So if I were to take one of these, hopefully without crashing, move that over there. If I drag it, I can scale it up accordingly. So this would make it a little, you know, a little awkward. But this works here. Now the question is a reason to use snapshots in lieu of creating a group. And that comes from, it depends on where you're getting this data from. Inside of Review, since I made these symbols in Review, I could easily turn those into a group. And if I had a good PDF, I could pull things and make a group from that as well. Using the snapshot allows you to use any PDF, right? So if you have a raster-based PDF, the same thing would work, where a group would not. Should sidebar a little bit there. There are two types of PDF files. There are raster PDFs and there are vector PDFs. Vector is anything that's created from the computer directly, right? So this was printed from CAD. Now it's a PDF. If it were printed to paper and then scanned, that becomes a raster PDF, all right? So using the snapshot method allows you to use any type of PDF. So there's pros and cons to both. Try the group option as well. It works pretty slick. But I just tend to use snapshot because it's a little faster for me. All right. So with that, let's continue on. I've created prior to our training today, I made some line works or some different line styles that show these things. So let's create one for our telecom, right? So let's put in some telephone manholes. Obviously, this is not going to be super accurate on where these are going to go. I'm just dropping them in so I can connect the dots, right? So when I go to create a line, so conveniently, the shortcut for line in Bluebeam Revu is the same as it is for AutoCAD. You can just type in L, which will have you draw a line. And when you do that, it's going to bring up this toolbar up at the top that asks you for your line style and color and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and go up to the top of my line style, and I'll look in here, and I already see that there's gas and hot water and dash, and there's that storm sewer, and there's the water I made, but I don't have one for telecom. So let's go create that. This is surprisingly easy. If I'm going to come up to manage, it's going to ask me what style set do I want to modify. This is where I can import. So of course, if you've got somebody who's made a ton of line types, go ahead and bring those in. But these are in advance, so I'm just going to click on this and modify this. So I see here are all the ones that I have already created. These are the ones that exist. If I go to add, let's create a new one. We'll just call this Telly. I'll hit OK, and it's going to bring up a line style editor. This is ridiculously easy. If you've ever tried making AutoCAD line types without use of the CTC tools, you'll find this ridiculously fancy. So all I got to do is have my line. I'm going to insert a dash, and I'm going to give this a width of 15. Just through trial and error, I found that 15 works. And then I'm going to hit a plus sign there, and I'm going to choose text. So my text, it's just going to be T. That's all I need to see. And I have a preview up here that shows me exactly how it's going to look, right? One thing I have been doing is scaling with line thickness. So this way, if I use a different line thickness, the text is going to grow with that, right? I'll show you how this works. So with that, I'm just going to hit OK, and now that one is done. We'll hit OK there, hit OK here. And now I should have this line option where I can go choose my telly, and I can connect accordingly, right? So this one is still showing up red. I didn't configure any of this stuff. This is where we're going to use, I'm going to put this in my tool chest, and I'm going to configure this in a slightly different way. Here, I'm going to go to my settings icon, for my properties icon, and this is going to pull up those lines. My subject, I'm going to call this telecom, and let's give this a color. I want that to be orange. It doesn't need a fill. There's my style here. So this is configured. I like the way this looks. It has my subject on here, and it has my color. So all I got to do at this point is come down to the bottom, and I'm going to add this to my tool chest under Civil Design. All right, so instead of dragging and dropping from my recent tools, I can also get to them from this spot. So I'll go to Civil Design, and now I see that line appearing right here. All right, so this means the next time I click on this, I can bring this in. Now you're going to notice something interesting. With the tool chest, there are two types of ways that I can use this, right? So if I just go telecom right now, it's just going to bring in a stick of a known distance. It matches the same thing that was in that tool chest, right? If I double click on it or right click to go to properties mode, it changes the icon. This means I can now draw whatever direction or length I want, and it's going to keep that symbology, right? So if you double click on it to toggle, you can see that that icon is going to change, but it works pretty slick. All right, so it's easy to configure, right? Those line styles are super easy to make if you want to have special ones. And as I mentioned, these are scalable, right? So if I take my line width and make it larger or smaller, that's what that scaling did, right? That text, that checkbox that we selected. So that works pretty slick. All right, so that's how we're configuring Revu to just do these simple things, right? We're just doing some simple markups, or I'm just doing some layout. I want to show how this stuff is going to work. It works really well. Now, one thing I want to note, just because this isn't toggled on by default, you'll notice that when I'm drawing lines like this, it's actually snapping to my other symbols. If this doesn't happen for you, you need to come up to View, and towards the bottom, there's an option here for Snap to Content and Snap to Markup. I don't think by default either one of these are checked inside of Review. So you want to make sure that those are toggled on. You'll know they are toggled on because they're going to have a blue highlight there. And that's going to allow you to snap to content. So it works pretty fancy that way. All right. So that's how we've configured our symbols and our line work. We can continue on and go from there. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I put telecom as the subject for that one, where that doesn't show up anywhere? Well, it does show up inside of the markups list. So if I pull up the markup list, I can see everything that I've put in here has been separated. So I have those 3 telecom things. I have got things inside of my water. I've got a water valve. I've got storm, right? So some of these other snapshots that I put in here, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Some of these other snapshots I put in here didn't get classified at that point. That's why these are showing up in there. But everything else has stuff in here. Some of those I said were sanitary sewer. Some I just put sewer. But it organizes it a little better. So that's the benefit of using that subject line, right? So let's go a little further and look at some of these other things I configured. Let's say that I've got this stuff and now somebody had made some changes and there's labels everywhere and maybe I just need to put some red lines on it. Well, I can do the same thing with my markups and my callouts. What's that invert? You know, what's the slope? Right? So common callouts, common comments, I can put inside of my markups list as well. That way I don't have to type them out every time. Again, we're looking for efficiency. So I can configure those. I can even set these up. So in my markups list, I've got my callouts here, and that's all fine and dandy. One thing I do want to highlight is the columns. So in the markups list, yours probably shows a lot different than mine. And that's because my markups list has been configured to just show what I want to see. Subject, label, length, area, count, measurement, author, right? Who did these things? So if you ever want to get those set up differently, come down to the bottom to manage columns. Usually author is higher up on the list. I went and I just moved it to the bottom just by clicking on it to highlight it and move the arrows up and down, right? So that's pretty slick there. We'll close our markups list. And, you know, so we've used Bluebeam Revu to do some preliminary layout. We've made a couple markups that are already in here. Well, let's start talking about our quantities. How can I configure these as well? And if I hover over this, you can see I've got a landscape one, an asphalt, a concrete, a count, and a length. So as with everything in Review, anything that we create can be reused. And speaking of which, you know, these tools here, if I wanted to share these with somebody else, all I got to do is export, right? Click on the symbol, go to export, grab that BTX file, and I can send that to anybody. All they would have to do would come over here to manage tool sets and go to import. Then they would navigate to that location. So super easy to share that data with somebody else. So my civil quantities, this could be configured for a whole bunch of things. Let's say that we want to do concrete, right? So all I got to do is create one area type and then make that reusable. So let's go make an area now. I'm just going to create a simple area. I'm going to go up to markup and measure. I'll go to area. And I'm just going to drop in something over here. I just want to configure this. So I'm going to go over to my properties again. This one is going to be gravel. All right, so area measurement, gravel. I'll make this, not being very creative with my colors today. I'll put it this little pastel red. I'll give it a fill color of the same thing. I'll give it just some dots, and I'll reduce that fill opacity. Change my text color, so just make it black. So there's my little gravel area. Same thing. When I'm done with configuring this, and this looks the way I want, I got to come down to the bottom and go to Add to Tool Chest, and I have a Civil Quantities. And we'll see that appear right here. All right, so let's go make some area measurements now. Now all of my quantities have been pre-configured. So let's say that this is landscape, right? I've got this odd shape here. I'm going to use the Dynamic Fill tool to measure this. So I'll come over here to Dynamic Fill. It's going to bring up my toolbar, and I want this to create a measurement. And I want it to create a gravel measurement, right? So I can choose what measurement I want right here. So we'll go gravel, and I'm just going to have it do a dynamic fill. I'll just grab this area. I'm just going to make a little bit of a rainbow of my plans here. So there's that fill, and I'll hit apply. There's my gravel. I'll grab my label and move that up. We'll do the same thing. Let's say this one's just landscape. So I'm going to come down and choose landscape. And I will fill, oops, I forgot to hit apply, didn't I? Whoopsie. Never mind, this one's going to be landscape. And I'll apply that. Oh, it looks like it did two on top of each other. Whoopsie. Let's delete that. Try this again. So apply, close. J for dynamic fill. Go landscape this time. And we'll fill in this one. So whenever I start that, it gets rid of this one, which for some reason makes my brain think I screwed it up, but I really didn't. So we'll hit apply here. Now that one, it shows up. I'll hold down the shift key and grab that label to move it. And just for fun, we'll do one more. Let's say this is concrete, even though I know it's not. And we'll drop that in here. And apply. And hold down shift to move that label. So these are three pre-configured area measurements that are in my civil quantities, right? So once they're inside of your tool chest, the dynamic fill tool is going to be able to pull up some of those styles, both your recent tools and the ones that you already have configured in here. So again, these can all be highly customized. There's another trick that we can do with quantities where I can even tell it, I can pre-configure the gravel to be $1.50 a square foot, or landscape to be $3 a square foot, or whatever the actual cost is. I can configure that through custom columns as well and give it a numeric value so that whenever I'm doing these area measurements and I go to my markups list, right, I can go in here and I see these areas and I've got all this stuff in here and it has that different label. I could go in here and pre-configure that through custom columns, right? If I were making custom columns where I had my material and my formula, I can do that. I did a webinar on this a few weeks ago. Go check out our YouTube channel if you want to see more content like that. We'll see if we've got time here at the end. I might jump back to that, but we can use these these dynamic fill tools to create these areas really easily of these odd shapes. So now I can do my preliminary quants. I mean, I can do so many things without even touching CAD, which is fantastic. These odd shapes like these little islands up here, I can do the same thing, pre-configure for concrete, do my dynamic fill. It will find all those fingers and go from there. It's not a perfect tool. There are some things where it kind of gets lost. Like this is a fine area that normally happens. I'll try it. So it'll skip the ramp entirely and it jumps kind of out of her. So what I can do is I can delete that and I can create these boundaries. So I'm telling this boundary, do not go past here. Right? So if I create that simple boundary, and you can kind of ignore the giant line it puts there. But if I go in here again, create that fill, go in here, create that fill, see, it'll stop right at that line, usually, or it gets close. And we can go from there. So it will put in those vertices. I can go fine tune it. And of course, this is all dynamic. If you're using Bluebeam Extreme, there is a function called Quantity Link, that will allow you, gotta be careful with your clicks here and not talk and click at the same time. If you're using Quantity Link inside of Bluebeam Extreme, you can have this value or any of your values from your markups list on your areas. This could be used through Quantity Link to tie to a cell inside of Microsoft Excel. So you can have one person working in the Bluebeam Revu, somebody else could be working in Excel to do their actual quote or bill of materials or whatever. And this will automatically update in that Excel file if it's pre-configured. So there's a tremendous amount of tools that we're not even really touching on inside of Revu today. Can you pin or lock dynamic fill so it does not actually move? So the dynamic fill part of that is just how I generated this area, right? So if I were to create an area the other way, whoops, not a poly length, just an area, and do that, the same thing happens, right? When I click on it, sometimes it accidentally moves. And that is a good question. Can I lock that? I want to say I can right here. Lock. Control Shift L. If I lock that in place, now I can't really move it anymore. It's something I need to get in the better habit of because I do that all the time. I forget to, or I never lock it, and then I just move things around on accident. But if I lock that, so let's go here where we've got to fix this, these little vertices here. If I lock this one, it doesn't allow me to fix those vertices. So I want to make sure it's done first, then lock it. I do have the ability to unlock that the same way. It doesn't actually tell you unlock. It just gives you a check mark. So see here, it's not locked. When I lock it, if I go back, there's a check mark there. So that's how I know it's locked. It also grayed it out. All right. So there is that one. Yeah, I can talk about Bluebeam Revu all day long. If you have questions, feel free to type them in. Looks like I've got most of these answered. All right. So we've got a couple minutes left. Using, for the civil, this can be used for a whole bunch of things. I'm going to jump over to another file real quick just to show some landscape stuff. I've got all these types of trees in here. Maybe I want to count them and have them applied. So I can use a count measurement. So same thing, if you go up to measure, there is a count function. And I can take this count and I can go click on manually all these trees. Well, the problem is in this example, I have lots of different types of trees, right? What if I were to pre-configure a count measurement for each one of these types of trees? So let's go over to count. So I'll grab my count measurement. I'm actually going to go to click on this guy, open up my properties here. Let's call this Coniferous tree. So I'll give it a certain label. I'll make this one pink, and I can count my trees like that, right? So I'm saving that particular one, and I'll drop that in accordingly. So if I want to go say that these are coniferous trees, I can go over here to my search option and get my rectangle, and I'll just grab this tree. So as I see that tree here, there are different sensitivities and things I can do, but I'll just go ahead and hit search. And let's go see. It's going to run through there, and it looks like it found 17 of them. So what I can do is I can select all of these things, select them all, and I can apply a count measurement to checked. And this is flying off of my screen, so I have to go to my other screen to see this. So you can't see what but it's giving me an option for a count measurement for coniferous tree. So when I select that, we're going to see all these pink check marks pop in here, right? If I were to do the same thing, do another count measurement, this time, let's make this one for deciduous tree. So let's just call this one D tree because I don't want to try murdering spelling of that. We'll call that D tree. We'll make this red and drop that in there. That one, oops, add to chest under simple quantities. So there we've got another one. So I'll take these trees, do the same exact thing. I will get a rectangle of this tree. I will search. Now I found 13 of these. I'll select all of those. I'm going to add that count measurement. Oops, again, popping on my other screen here. So I got to be careful with my clicks. Now we see those red check marks there, right? So this could, the same principle can work for water valves, sewer manholes, catch basins, right? So the symbology that I'm using, landscape, can be inserted for anything else, right? So why did I bother classifying those if those are trees? Because it's all about the markups list. Markups list inside of here works great. There we go, coniferous trees. So there's my extra symbols that are off in space. This one and that one. So there we go. We fixed our count measurement. There we go. 17 coniferous trees and 13 deciduous trees with a total of 30. So that's why we're giving it those subjects. That's why we're giving it that information, because in the markups list, it can do those quantities for us at the same time. So again, I've got a lot of things I can do with this PDF file without touching CAD. So if I need to work from home and I don't have a network license, or maybe I'm just sitting on my laptop at the airports or wherever you're supposedly not supposed to be right now, we can do that stuff pretty quickly right here in Revu without needing to pull down any sort of crazy licensing. All right. So I just touched on quite a bit of basic stuff with inside of Revu, right? We went through and we quickly went over the interface and how profiles work. We customized the tool chest to populate it with various lines and symbols. And then we populated it with different quantities and markups. We went through the tool chest and how to import and export those different files. And the same thing with our profiles. We can always manage those profiles and save them if we want to import or export them. So again, if you've got a Bluebeam Whiz inside of your firm, have them export their stuff or make these for you. But it's really not that difficult. Once you create something that you like, be sure to take it from your recent tools and just drag it into something else. Like I made one for my favorites, right? So let's say that these water valves are my favorite. I can drag that in here and I have a copy of that too, right? So all you got to do is pop up to your tool chest, make one for your name on it or whatever. That way you have your own collection. This will be here for you whenever you're using Bluebeam Revu. All right. So with that, I mean, we could be here all day, but we will be doing certainly more stuff inside of Revu as we go through here. If you have any questions when you're next time you're using Revu, or maybe you want to look at getting some more training, we do training quite frequently with Revu, either a 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, whatever you guys need, we can do that for you. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. You guys were great, and we'll see you next time. Stay healthy. Take care.